What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you the top 5 soccer cleats / football boots that I would not buy, which I guess makes this a not so top 5 or a bottom 5. I don't know. I made these picks based on 2 different perspectives. The first being my own perspective, somebody who's worn pretty much every single top end and low end shoe to come out over the last 4 or 5 years. I've got personal experience with just about everything. I have a really good idea of what I like, and I guess more importantly for this video, I have a really good idea of what I dislike. And the second perspective is that of the general consumer, but one who is educated, perhaps somebody who would watch my videos and has a little bit of an idea of what the shoes are about prior to making their purchase, even if they haven't made that decision yet. So those are the 2 perspectives that I made these picks from. I made 2 rules for these picks. 1 is that the shoes have to be current models, and 2, there's no restriction on price ranges. So it's not just 5 top-end shoes I wouldn't buy, it's 5 shoes or groups of shoes in general. Also keep in mind that if you own one of the shoes that I'm mentioning in today's video, it doesn't mean that they are absolutely horrible. It just means that I personally do not like them or wouldn't necessarily recommend them. If you have them and you like them, that's what counts, that's what matters. Please do not take offense to these picks. Also, if you guys enjoy the top 5 series on my channel, be sure to support this video with a like if you want to continue seeing it happen. And of course, if you have any suggestions for other top 5 videos, let me know down below in the comments. Also, these picks are in no particular order. The New Balance VISARO 2. Now this is a shoe that admittedly when I first saw it unveiled, I wasn't crazy about the look in general, but because of how many new things they attempted on this particular shoe, I was very optimistic and very interested to try them out. Unfortunately, once I actually got to try them out, I was sorely disappointed because there's not a lot that's very good about this shoe in comparison to other top-end models in my opinion. The upper feels much more rigid and more plasticky than I was honestly anticipating. A huge downgrade in my opinion coming from the original VISARO model. The fit of the shoe is just not very good. It's really unusual, especially in the heel. Does not fit very well or very comfortably in my opinion. And then this midsole that they tried to incorporate here just adds a lot of bulk with no real benefit in terms of underfoot cushioning. You would never guess that there's something that different about this particular shoe in terms of how they feel underfoot. Not to mention that it's also very bulky and not very light considering the style of shoe that they were going for here. And just as a whole, it doesn't have a lot going for it. They tried a lot of new things and it's one of those shoes where everything could go very right or everything could go very wrong. And unfortunately, I feel like this is a shoe where everything went really wrong. The mid-cut Nike TAKEDOWN models, specifically the ones at the $80 to $90 price point. Now, I really am not a huge fan of mid-cut shoes. I've talked about this on the channel. I think the whole mid-cut thing in the first place is kind of gimmicky and fairly unnecessary. But in the case of the Superfly and the Obra, where those shoes are only available in a mid-cut variation, the collar, while it is gimmicky, while it adds nothing to the performance of the product, it's okay in terms of not impacting the performance negatively, and because the rest of the shoe is so good, you can deal with the collar if you need to. It's really nice that the Phantom 3 is available in a low cut and a mid cut version. Now, they've implemented that same idea at the $80 price point, where the shoes that would normally retail for $80 to $75 are now available at $90, so an extra 10 to 15 bucks for a mid cut variation. I'm holding the HYPERVENOM Felon 3 DF as an example. What does the mid-cut collar add to the shoe given the extra $10 to $15? Absolutely nothing. It is purely a money grab. It's taking advantage of people who just want the look of a mid-cut shoe, but don't necessarily realize that they're paying extra for nothing. Are they happy with their mid-cut shoe when they actually buy a product like this? Very likely, yes, they are. But when you're talking about value for money and really getting the best possible product, the mid-cut models at the TAKEDOWN price points, it's just a sock, it's not Flyknit, it looks quite cheap in my opinion, the fit in the heel is not as good, and they're more uncomfortable than the low-cut variations, they're more expensive, and they also weigh more, so in every measurable performance statistic, they're not as good as the cheaper low-cut variations, but because of the fact they're mid-cut, people buy them. I understand if you only have $80, $90 to spend and you desperately want a mid-cut shoe, but do everything in your power to not buy these. Just buy the low-cut one. It's so much better, saves you money. This is just unnecessary. most Adidas takedown models. Now, this is more difficult to explain because it is a fairly large group of shoes, but I guess to sum up what I would not buy, anything Nemesis, Ace, X, or even really the Copa line in the 17.2 or 17.3 variations. While the uppers are decent quality on some shoes, I'm holding up the Nemesis 17.3 as an example. This is a shoe that you hold in your hand, you're like, hey, the upper is pretty good. But when you actually try them on, the way that these Adidas takedown models fit is just shocking. I don't understand why they've made them fit so poorly. A shallowness in the heel that just doesn't feel right. A lot of the sole plates are awkwardly stiff, kind of like this model right here. And there's just more downsides to these shoes than upsides, which is why I really would not buy them. And also you have to consider that if you have $80 to spend, you have $120 to spend, you have other options outside of Adidas. And if you're talking about comparing Nike and Adidas takedown models right now, unfortunately, at pretty much every single price point comparison, the Nike ones are significantly better, not only in terms of overall quality, but the way that they fit and feel is a huge step up from most Adidas takedown models right now. So I'm not saying that they're terrible, they're absolutely unwearable, but when you have other options at the same price point, I just wouldn't buy these. The Nike HYPERVENOM Phantom 3 DF. Now this is a shoe that you probably weren't expecting to see on this list, but it makes the list because of one other shoe, and that is the Phantom 3 Low, which not only retails for $50 cheaper than this guy, it's also objectively a better performing shoe, and I'll explain why. So the DF model exists at the $300 price point to match the $300 price point of the Superfly and the Obra. Unlike the Superfly and the Obra, which you can only get in mid-cut, you can get the Phantom 3 in a low-cut variation. So minus the collar, right away you've shaved half an ounce off the shoe, which is not a ton of weight, but it is something that I would say is moderately noticeable and something that you should take into consideration if you value the best performing product. As far as what the collar adds from a performance standpoint, pretty much nothing. It's more of a visual thing than anything. It does change the fit in the heel, but I would argue that change in fit is actually a negative one. I think out of the box, especially when it comes to initially breaking in the shoes, the low cut version is way more comfortable, especially if you have the opportunity to try this one on side by side with the low cut variation. Most people would prefer the low cut one if they weren't lying to themselves. And then finally, it's $50 less for the low cut. Why would you spend the extra $50 for a heavier product and one that isn't quite as comfortable out of the box? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but obviously a product like this, because of the demand for mid-cut shoes, will continue to exist. I just hope we get more low-cut options in the future, hopefully from the Superfly and the Obra, like they've done with the Phantom 3. The Adidas Glitch. Now this is a shoe that makes the list because it is very, very similar when broken down to that of the Adidas X16 Plus Pure Chaos, now the X17 Plus Pure Speed. They're essentially the same shoe, which is what you're getting with the Adidas Glitch as well. It features pretty well the same upper, it features pretty well the exact same tech fit system, it features pretty well the exact same stud pattern, but the difference here is the fact that these are laceless, the fact that these are heavier, and the fact that they're more expensive. Do those sound like features that you should pay extra for? Not to me. So why would you buy the Adidas Glitch? The Pure Chaos or the Pure Speed is a lighter shoe. It fits better because of the lacing system that's incorporated. With a laceless system, you lose out on the adjustability, not to mention that these are actually very, very difficult to get on and off. Anyways, they're also heavier, which I think is a big deal considering the style of shoe that it is, because based on how the Adidas Glitch looks, I think a lot of people would expect it to be very, very light, but it's actually well above average for a top-end shoe in general, not to mention a top-end shoe that falls into the thin synthetic category, which at around 10 ounces or so, which is what these weigh in at, that's simply unacceptable for a top-end model, but because of the way they look, the exclusivity, and the fact that it's kind of cool that the inside and outside bits are interchangeable, it remains a popular model. Does that mean you should buy it? No, probably not. Save yourself the money, get a better shoe in the form of the Pure Chaos or the Pure Speed. That's my opinion. All right, guys, that is it for my picks of what I think you shouldn't buy, or at least shoes that I personally wouldn't buy. Again, the point of this video was not to offend anybody. I just wanted to share my brutally honest opinion and general advice on shoes that I personally would not buy for reasons that I explained in this video. I'm not saying that you should never buy some of the products in this video. I'm just saying that I don't think they are necessarily the best options out there in their respective price ranges or in terms of what they have on offer from a performance standpoint. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to support it with a like. If you have any questions or picks of your own, leave them down below in the comment section. I'll definitely get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.